big welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about the right shoulder. This is a two-part series video. The first one on the right shoulder, the second one that's going to come up in a few days' time on the left shoulder. The right shoulder and the left shoulder are huge influences on how we can move around the golf ball. And with the aid of a Theraband, I'm going to show you a couple of drills that will really start to change the way you think about the right shoulder and the left shoulder. I want to give a little shout out to a chap that was so influential on my golfing life, Steve Bann, head coach down at the Victorian Institute of Sport and hugely influential on Stuart Appleby, Jeff Ogilvy, Aaron Baddeley, their careers, KJ Choi, huge influence on their golf and on my life. The right shoulder and the left shoulder are always seen as coming forwards. So in a backswing, and what I mean by that, in a backswing, the left shoulder is seen as coming forwards. In a downswing, the right shoulder is always seen as coming forwards. Or, for those of you out there, always trying to keep the right shoulder back to hit from the inside. What we must understand is that the right shoulder does move forwards. That's an absolute. If you're trying to stop your right shoulder moving forwards, stop that immediately because that's killing your golf. And your left shoulder coming forwards is going to invariably help you to turn more. And it's weird, isn't it? Everybody talks about, I need to turn my left shoulder around the golf ball to make a big turn. Yet nobody wants to move their right shoulder forwards to make a big turn. We also want to think about that in the backswing, the right shoulder is going back. In the through swing, the left shoulder is going back. Let me just quickly demonstrate that. It's not something that you haven't not seen before, but instead of thinking about in a backswing, the left shoulder coming forwards, why not think about the right hip, the right shoulder moving backwards? Now, something that we are not very good at is moving backwards. When was the last time you walked down the street backwards? It seems a silly analogy, but our proprioception, our awareness of moving backwards is far less than it is of us moving forwards. You then start to get onto why certain golfers are better than others. People's proprioception, people's awareness of how they move in space will have a huge influence on how a golfer or an athlete will move around a golf ball. So when you find these golfers or these sports people, football players, tennis players, rugby players, multi-directional golfers, multi-directional athletes that are very aware of moving in different directions. A footballer moves forwards, backwards, sideways, rotates. A tennis player does the same. A rugby player does the same. A runner, single plane, just running forwards. Very little awareness compared to the other athletes of moving in different directions. So when you start to think about this golf swing, we are moving through the three different planes. Sideways, forwards and backwards, and rotation. We need to be very aware of how the pressures move through the feet. So, with this Theraband, what I'm going to get you to do is, if you can, it doesn't have to be a circular one like this, you can get a strip, tie a couple of loops in the end, take it in your thumbs and pull the band across your chest. In fact, I'm just going to move it into the last three fingers and pull it back across your belt line. And what it will do is it will start to pull your shoulders back, and it will start to get your back into a bit more extension. Don't go too far with that. And then what I want you to do is I want you to move backwards on the mat. And as you move backwards, you'll really start to understand and feel how the right foot and the right shoulder moves around. And at that point, you'll start to appreciate how the right foot must push off to make the right hip and the right shoulder move around. And then once you've done that, do the same with the other foot. Now use your left foot. I'm not going to stand on that ball, or else I'm going to end up on my backside. And then I'm going to push it back in the other way. And all of a sudden, we start to see my right side open up, my left side open up. So as a feeling, we're pushing our right side back, and then we're pushing our left side back. What you then want to try to do is try to stay in posture while you're doing it. So as I'm pushing, I'll come a bit further away from the camera here. As I'm pushing back, what I'm trying to do is also stay in my posture as I go. Because as I'm pushing my feet from underneath me, if I don't use the balance through my feet appropriately, I'll either try and stand up or I'll fall over, one of the two. So that drill of pulling the band across your belt line, holding it in your last three fingers and pulling it back, palms down, starts to give you the awareness of how the feet push and rotate the lower half, rather than we've been seen to move sideways. But as this video talks about the right shoulder, our awareness, and if I'm going to turn my back to the camera, so my apologies for you looking on my derriere, pushing the band down, making my shoulders sit down on my rib cage, is the very ingredient that as a golfer we are looking to facilitate, because the structure of the shoulders sitting on the rib cage and holding the shape of the spine is crucial. To make that right shoulder sit down on the rib cage, to allow my right hip and my right side move around, so that I start to feel like I can create some sort of backswing that will allow me to move around the golf ball, is super important. The minute I don't allow that right arm to turn outwards, to externally rotate, I can't wish to hope to get that right shoulder to sit down on my rib cage and keep the authenticity of my spine. And at that point, as soon as that right forearm starts to do different things, it will change the right shoulder and it will start to change the top of your spine, which will then start to have an impact on the lower half. Or it could be vice versa. It could be your lower half that's having an impact on how your right arm is moving in your backswing. But by pulling the band down and around you, it sits your shoulder down, and it really starts to give you the sensation of how my right shoulder almost feels like it's a million miles away from my ear. And when I do that, it will allow me to turn a little bit more, but it has to be facilitated by the right hip, which we just felt when I pushed off with the band. So the right hip and the right shoulder then start to move together. The right arm starts to turn outwards, but of course if the right arm turns outwards and your grip is in the wrong place, all of a sudden when you do that, if you launch one out to the right, you're not going to do that for very long, because you're going to immediately try to feel like you need to close the club face and all this flattening the left wrist baloney. Now, if you're fed up with paying for too much on premium leather golf gloves, please, please, please go across to gxgolfgloves.com. This is the golf glove that's trusted by tour players and elite amateurs alike. They're a sponsor of my channel, and I couldn't be more proud of being associated with a golf glove that is not only great value for money, and you're going to be blown away when you go to the website and find out how much these are, but also the quality. Because there's a perishable item of this golf game, to be able to have something of a Cabretta leather of this quality at the cost and value and the price point that it's pitched at, you won't find better out there. So do go across, use a code, good coaching, naturally, and find 10% off your first order. Enjoy that. So the right shoulder and how it works in the backswing is super important for facilitating the mobility in a backswing of your upper body, to feel like the right shoulder and the right arm are not a hurdle in making the right side move out of the way. The right arm feeling like it opens up, the right shoulder sitting down, the right foot pushing the hip out the way, the right leg lengthening, all of those ingredients that starts to get you more loaded in your backswing to feel like you can pull the golf club into the golf ball. 60% of you are not subscribed to my channel. If you're enjoying this content and your game is getting better, do consider subscribing. I hope you've enjoyed that video. I think you'll find that's good coaching. I look forward to seeing you next time.